Hey guys, welcome to the Frack and Friends show. This is episode 15, and we got our girl, our friend, the one and only Monday Cinema Club's
Hi
Denise.
guys, how are you, Caleb? It is nice to see you, my friend. It's been a while. It's been a while.
It's been a long night in Baton Rouge. I was trying to remember another song, but John Mayer always gets me.
I like that.
Yeah, so it has been a while. And I say a while, but really we talk all the time, and
And we do.
I'm always on every episode tuning in for Monday Cinema Club, which, by the way, Top Gun episode was legit.
It was, dude. I loved that movie so much, dude.
I mean, you even grew a mustache for us. The
I
dedication.
felt the need for speed, Caleb. I felt the need for speed, dude.
Look, Top Gun. It might have been an '80s movie, but Top Gun was. And I didn't get to say this, because I didn't get on the video, but Top Gun was such a huge thing for me. And I'm so sad because I haven't seen the second one yet because I decided not to go back to movie theaters anymore. And I'm super excited because everyone that I've spoken to said you have to go see this movie, you know?
It's a good one, dude. And it hails a lot back to the original Top Gun. And I honestly go into those types of movies, like not remakes, but like reboots. I go into them with like the lowest expectations.
Caution. Yeah.
Like every time I'm like, this is going to be the crappiest movie. So hopefully I could be excited for, what it shows me. And with this one, I shed a tear a little bit, and Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise, but the cast was nice and young, and I think it's a good. I think that whole plot of just the fighter pilotness really fascinates me. Like fighting air combat, I think that's wild.
Me too, especially when you have someone like Tom Cruise, who insists on doing his own stunts or as much as he can, aka 99.9%. And the idea of we're not going to use green screen, we're not going to fake this, we're going to be up in the sky, and it's insane.
So I actually asked that on Monday Cinema Club. I was wondering if anybody knew if it was a green screen or if it was done in real life. Did you hear that it was done? Not simulation, basically.
I don't think it was simulation, at least for Tom Cruise's part, because they said Tom Cruise was actually piloting, these particular jets in the sky. Because, Tom Cruise, he's been a pilot for, I would say, probably 2 decades, if I had to guess, 2 decades at least. But he is also well known for insisting on doing his own stunts, and that includes being thousands and thousands of feet in the air, hanging on a helicopter with just one harness. Anything can go wrong, but the man does it.
Listen, I'm gonna be a real Frack. Like, you telling me that really does put this new Top Gun movie into perspective for me, because I didn't know. I thought it not that it was green screen, but like somehow in a simulation, kind of like NASA thing. But you're telling me something else, and this is wild to me. This is crazy. Wow.
If I had to guess, especially for Tom Cruise or any of the cast who are actually up in the skies, because Tom Cruise did training, in those jets and everything in preparation, months and months and hours. But more than likely, because I remember they said they had 16 cameras on each jet so they can get different angles of Cruise, actually being in it. And if I had to guess, it was probably 2-seaters, and maybe they might have CGI'd one of the seats and made it to where. But I do know it's an interesting thing because I know his persistence and insisting on doing his own stunts, and it's a very important thing. So. And then we're going to look this up and be like, yeah, it was all green screen.
It was actually a whole green screen there.
I'm like doing this whole speech about Tom Cruise doing his own stunts. And no, I would say a good majority was not, green screen or even special effects,
I wonder if they did that for the first one.
Ooh, Tom Cruise is a young man then,
That's what I'm saying. Maybe
and
he wasn't as adamant, but
yeah, I
I
mean,
can
he was
see it.
also just starting at that time, pretty much. What was that, 1986, 88?
1986, yeah.
Yeah, Tom Cruise is really. I think he had done Taps. He had done Risky Business at that time,
I think
maybe
Cocktail, maybe.
Cocktail.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the way the world worked then, versus now, I'm not even sure if people had insurance for like actors back then. You know, which I mean, it's like Jackie Chan, right? Jackie Chan can't even get coverage in the U.S. when he's shooting a movie. Everything comes out of his
Very
own
true.
pocket.
Right, right, right.
But these kind of actors and individual, and this will be our first point where we can kind of start talking about this is, what were some of your people or actors that you kind of grew up with that even today you still have this amazement or this amazing feeling of everything they do. I have a lot, so you can go first.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, Frack. Robin Williams is probably the one. I mean, obviously he's passed on, but from childhood, he was always one that's like it's okay to be silly in like really dark
Yeah.
moments sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Like laughter can help you through a lot of things, and I think he continued in his whole career to just have that mentality, especially when it came to kids. He is someone that I definitely looked up to.
Wow, Robin
Yeah,
Williams. Ugh,
he's
he's
amazing. He's amazing in everything that he does.
For me, I also grew up with Robin Williams, loving the man. I mean, everything he did, even his not childlike
Yeah,
movies. I mean, the guy was a true American genius
yeah,
at cinema.
yeah.
And I feel today, even watching movies, there are times where I say, this would have been Robin Williams' role.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
or this would have been better if
Yeah.
Robin Williams had done it
And
because he was impactful.
I actually think that way with Jim Carrey too. I think Jim Carrey is another
Yeah.
one that can do a great balance of drama and comedy.
Yes.
Like silly as can be when he needs to be, but
Oh
like
yeah.
reserved and serious, like in the Truman Show, when
Ooh.
when he gets super serious. Incredible acting, man.
I tell you, another Jim Carrey favorite of mine was Eternal Spotlight.
Oh, Eternal
Or
Sunshine. Yeah,
Sunshine. Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That one cuts real deep.
First cuts the
Beautiful.
deepest.
Yeah, dude.
I
That
mean,
one's a beautiful movie for sure.
he is another remarkable actor. I mean, I'm sad to tell you now. If you remind me after this, I'll watch it right after the show.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Sonic 1. I own both of them, but you need to remind me directly after, and I will leave from right at this spot to the theater room about 10 feet away.
And Caleb, if you don't watch it, that's okay too.
No, I need to, but you got to understand, like this week in general, I added like 14 movies on my Vudu account. I mean, it's about 200 movies down, so you just have to remind me.
But I do think sorry, I'm fixing my light over here. I do think that Sonic 1, I also went in with low expectations, but I came out, I was like, hey, this actually hit kind of like the nostalgia. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Sega, and I have a Sega Genesis, and I have Sonic. Sonic was like one of the OGs that I played all the time.
Yeah.
So seeing Sonic 1 and then being surprised and shocked that Jim Carrey was Dr. Robotnik, I was like, okay, I can get down with this. So yeah, I suggest it.
It's funny. For years and years, I've longed to see Jim Carrey come back to comedy. And a friend of mine had seen 1 and 2 now, and he was telling me, if you want to see him come back and have glimpses of that silliness, this is the movie. And you may never, ever see it again because he's talking about retiring.
That's a great point.
So I'm really, because first of all, I've loved everything Jim Carrey does. And I understand not wanting to be in that position of being the funny man. I understand that in Hollywood, when especially growing up and watching him do, Liar, starting with Liar, Liar,
Yeah.
and The Mask and things, and everything's just so funny. And now he's kind of more of a recluse. Is that the right word? I mean,
Yeah, I definitely think Hollywood jaded him a
I do
lot.
too. I do
Um,
too.
and for rightfully so. Like we were
Mhm.
talking about earlier, celebs can be super. It's just a bad environment sometimes.
Definitely.
And I think he really kind of got to that at heart, and I think that pulled him back a little bit, man. Yeah,
Yeah, because for years, I mean, for years and years, he wasn't doing any movies.
yeah.
I think his comeback role was, I would say, like 6, 7 years ago when he did this detective movie, and he had shaved his head and everything, and
I
had a
don't remember
long
that.
beard. It
I
was
don't
his
remember.
first role in like 6 years or something like that. It was a long time that he had done a movie, and I don't know, like it was great. It was good,
Oh, of
but
course, sure.
when you're so used to seeing a person be, designed in every single movie back to back, and then he's this different character, it's like, huh, and I think growing up with Jim Carrey, growing up with Robin Williams, I think those two were huge for me, as a child. And of course, Robin Williams being Genie. I can always remember like the Genie was one of the first times I ever recognized an actor's voice.
Yes,
As a
yes.
child, I even knew, oh, that's Robin Williams.
Yeah, I
As
think him and Mufasa, James Earl Jones. I think those are the two
yes.
actors that, from very young, I was like, I know who these men are.
I actually did not know James Earl Jones was Mufasa until later in my life. Actually, I didn't know he was even Darth Vader,
Ooh,
until later
spoiler
on in
alert.
my life.
No, I'm
Oh,
just
yeah, sorry. Those who haven't seen it since 77, But, it's crazy to think about that, because we grew up on all these different characters in these shows. I can always recall the WB, right? Saturday mornings,
anime.
5 hours of summer.
Yeah,
I
dude.
forgot the theme song, but I just remember like the Animaniacs, all these different individuals. But what were some of the voice actors that you kind of grew up with that, that you actually loved?
Um, boy, oh boy, oh boy. I will have to
Mm.
think about that one. Um, Honestly, my dude Dante, who
Yeah, I was gonna
hosts
say. I didn't want
who
to say it
hosts our
first, but yes,
who co-hosts with me in Monday Cinema Club. His voice is iconic. I mean,
yes,
he's Rufio and Prince Zuko. When you put those two together, it's like that's my whole childhood right there.
that's
Um,
right. But you also forgot, wasn't he Jake the American Dragon?
Jake the American
I
Dragon.
mean, come on, that's who I would have said first before.
Dude, that was a little past my time of watching those types of
Oh, okay.
cartoons, but I still did appreciate Jake
Yeah.
a whole bunch.
That
I
voice, man.
he
That
has
voice.
he's got one of the most iconic voices for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
It's
I'm
so
trying to think.
funny.
I'm trying to think of another person's voice that I that I'm
Probably Timmy Turner. The
Timmy
voice of Timmy
Turner.
Turner.
Yeah, yep,
That would
yep,
be
yep.
one of my favorites. Wanda
You
and
know,
Cosmo.
uh, Tommy Pickles, Tara
Oh.
Strong, I think her name is. She also voiced like Chucky too, but she also has voiced so many other uh
Wow.
90s icon like Phil, Lil. I think
Yeah.
she did
Harley
Dexter.
Quinn.
Maybe, yeah, dude. I don't want to put out a whole bunch of things that she hasn't done, but
People are like,
her voice is iconic for sure.
yeah.
I think that she has a voice that I will forever remember in my childhood. I think.
It's interesting because I don't really remember actors and their voices. Most of them are actresses as well. Like, but you would hear things like, for instance, one of my all time remembrance of a show in particular would be Kim Possible.
Oh, yep.
Like Will Friedle and Christy Carlson Romano. You know, I grew up, you know, watching the early days of Disney. I mean, I just remember watching the very first, you know, Disney Channel original movies, like from the get-go. I think the first one was Under Wraps in 1997.
I was a Blank Check fan.
Johnny Tsunami.
Yep.
Yeah.
Luck of the Irish, I think, was one of them. Yeah.
Yes.
Those were iconic, man, for sure.
And it's so weird because we have a thing called Disney Plus now, to where we have access to pretty much every single, I'm going to just say all of them, because, you know, growing up, I remember like watching, you know, things on television with advertisements and such every 10 minutes, and, you know, never getting through the movie because the advertisements, even back then, were like, oh, nowadays we're like, oh no, we're paying for the ad-free version, you know. But with Disney Channel movies, man, one of my all-time favorites was Smart House.
Smart House was good.
You know,
Smart House,
little baby, don't you? I was gonna start saying the Eminem version, but it's, you know, the nursery rhyme version.
Yes, I remember. I think there was one with what's her name, Tyra Banks. And I want to say Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan. That's the doll movie.
Is that Life Size?
Life Size.
Life Size.
Did you know they made a sequel?
Caleb, why would you tell me those things?
Because
why would you tell me that?
The sequel was bad.
Ruining my childhood here.
Lindsay Lohan wasn't even in it.
They weren't even trying.
No, but Tyra Banks did come back, but
she would. She absolutely would. I have no doubt about that one.
But you know, there's like, growing up, it was always Disney Channel for me. I mean, I watched a little bit of Nickelodeon. I did. I didn't watch much of Cartoon Network though, but I was into Disney.
So I'm gonna tell you something straight up, Caleb, that finally got my life to work over here. So I actually didn't have cable when I was a kid. So I had to wait on these things for like sleepovers, and whenever I would go to my friends' houses. I didn't get cable until I was a little older. Yeah, and it was crazy, but I did get to see. And so like afterwards, after I did get cable, I like started binging all of these things that I like. I went on a pop culture dive in. But yeah, Cartoon Network was a little riskier back then.
Sure was.
A little riskier tunes. I remember Space Ghost, Coast to Coast.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Powerpuff Girls were a big one of mine. I loved PPG.
Thank you for canceling the remake, by the way.
Yep. That needed to happen for sure. Yeah, I remember Powerpuff Girls. Dexter's Laboratory was a big one.
Yes.
But I was mainly more of like the cable channels, like WB. I was a huge PBS kid growing up. I know, old school PBS, man. Where
Dragon
you at?
Dragon
Tales, Zoom, like yeah, man. Zoom. Dude, that was my jam. And watching the Cats musical Broadway version like 70 times over.
My first exposure to Broadway was probably Cats the musical.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. I credit that specific PBS. I can't remember. I seriously remember this so vividly, watching that for so many hours. Like,
you know, my very first exposure to Broadway was actually this VHS tape that I had until it decided to eat itself because I just used it too much. But it was the Peter Pan musical. And this was like the 1951 version or something.
I think I vaguely remember this one too.
It's got the crocodile and he dances with Hook.
Yeah.
Like, I won't grow up. I won't grow up. I will never something. Yeah. See, I remember it. I haven't seen it in 20 plus years.
I want to say that probably aired on PBS as well. That's probably where I'm getting mine from.
That's where I used to tape it with my VCR.
Dude, what do these kids know about tape and stuff and having to rewind and pause?
Hey, Google, go ahead and record it.
You know, you had to get a blank tape. Oh, man, it was a whole... Or record over other stuff that...
Yes. Whoops. Dad's wedding. I'm sorry.
My brother's birth. I'm so sorry for recording it.
It's like, oh, well, at least it's got, half the episode. And all of a sudden you just see your mom screaming and, it's like, oh, no. That's bad.
Yeah, I definitely remember all of this, man. I love nostalgia. I miss the 90s so much. I miss the 2000s so much. It was such a simpler time.
Yeah. Which, I would definitely want to talk about this part because I think it's important, but I want to ask you a question and I want you to answer it as honestly as ever.
Things are getting serious right now. I like it.
Yeah, it's about to get... If I had like a thunderstorm kind of clip, I would just start playing that so people can like, whoa, this is getting really for real now.
Lightning round right now.
So, do you ever feel sad looking back and then looking where you are now, knowing that everything we love is just in the past? Because I've recently gotten to a point where I've felt miserable because I feel like I'm stuck in the wrong body and I just miss the old days when all the shows that I loved and when things were simpler. But I would like to kind of talk about that for a little bit. Just, how's it feel looking back?
That's a great question. Very deep, Frack. Very, very deep right now. I'm a little nervous, but I think that's a great question. Yeah, I'm 33 for all of you who don't know. I know I don't look it, but I'm 33. So I was born in 89. So at the tail end of the 80s, I was a full-on 90s kid, growing up. And yeah, dude, back then, I mean, I was a kid as well, so nothing kind of mattered other than what my life is and like what toys are popular and all that. I remember being into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers a whole bunch. My two older brothers, I looked up to them, so I was a tomboy, and I always loved playing with swords and fights and stuff. So... that being said, yeah, I mean, I was a kid. Everything was amazing. Growing up and getting into the technology of things and having phones, I think definitely played a part in kind of our miserableness of right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, a lot of technology is done for good. We're talking right now on technology. This wouldn't have been able to happen back then. But it's also like, dang, man, kids don't really get to experience a lot of the outside now. They're sucked into their tablets. I mean, we were sucked into TV, but we could always take a break from that. I feel like with kids, it's really hard to take breaks off of tablets or something else if they're fed into, I don't know, man. It's just a crazy world. And not to mention our world surrounding us, like political and
division,
Armageddon happening in the back. I mean, just being an adult, you're much more aware of those things, and it sucks. But I will say now I am happy that I am able to have streaming services like HBO that has like Powerpuff Girls, or YouTube where I can find every episode of Wishbone that I wanted, or every episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like that about technology, I think is awesome. That I can still kind of go back to my childhood and hopefully whenever I do have kids, share that childhood with them. I've gotten to share a lot of the movies that I love with my nieces, which has been awesome. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids they loved that movie. It was so cool to like see the amazement of like not CGI stuff, or like maybe early CGI stuff.
Or you can say like, yeah, he really, really blew up. He's really
Yeah,
that
or
big.
yeah. Or like that slime is really real. It's not like
Yes,
CGI made,
definitely.
Um so yeah, I guess there's pros and cons of both. I hate growing up. I wish I was a kid forever, not having to care about the world, but at the same time, I love where we're at right now, progressive wise as well, maybe.
Sure.
But that was a heavy question there, Frack. I don't know if I can come back after that one. What about you, dude? What about you?
The last few weeks, even just starting this show, ever since the start of this show, and I guess now it's just hitting me with thoughts. But the other day, I was thinking about how sad I am, like how genuinely very sad that we're all talking about these things. Everything we're talking about just makes the memories flood back for me. So much that it's overwhelming at times. Because there's a lot of things I forgot. I mean, you just said wishbone, and I just started tearing up. Like the craziest thing, stuff like that, like makes me tear up because like that's what I grew up on, and it was Shiloh, Wishbone, Airbud, Chance, Homeward Bound,
Dude, the
like
90s were the decades of like heroic dogs, man. Like, yes.
bring them back. Oh well, there's a new dog movie with Channing Tatum, but
No, no, no. I'm just joshing, dude. Like, I think the things when we were growing up felt more not real, but genuine.
yeah,
And like you were saying with that dog movie of Channing Tatum, it doesn't seem genuine.
it just
You
seems like
know?
they want to make a couple bucks.
Exactly.
But I struggle sometimes. I struggle with being, a part of today's society because, and it might be just because of the show that I do and what we talk about, but it just makes me miss everything. It makes me miss everything so much. It makes me realize how much happier I was as a person being in those times of being carefree,
Yeah.
of
Carefree
not
is the big
knowing
one.
violence. Like all
Yeah.
we knew was, the good guys always won. We were taught that as a child. We were taught to be drug free. If we said we were going to be drug, which thankfully, almost 30 years later, I've not taken any drugs. Never smoked a cigarette. Never had alcohol. Nothing. And
Frank, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you, as a 90s kid, always, when you see those 6-pack rings of like the plastic rings, do you cut them still before throwing them away? Or is that just me?
Okay. First of all, what exactly are you talking about?
You know
Rings.
those 6-pack holders, basically, but they're plastic.
Oh,
And they
yes.
have like rings. And
Okay.
I feel like all throughout the 90s, whoever marketed that was so genius, because all I remember is like this poor sea turtle had its like head stuck in the 6-pack thing. And they were like, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to cut those, you got to save wildlife. Still to
Yeah.
this day, I cut them. And I swear to goodness, that marketing person needs to get like all the credit, dude. Like,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I've never bought anything. I only drink water. So I've never had like ever bought like anything with those rings on it, which I think that would be called what, plastic.
yeah,
um,
they're like
but
plastic 6-pack holder rings.
I've never bought anything to like do that. But I'll be sure to pass on the message.
I swear, dude, all throughout the 90s, that's all this message was like this turtle just being stuck in that 6-pack holder. And I was so sad. And still to this day, I think about this turtle. And
we're, gonna, we're gonna have to cut this part off, man. This is hilarious. I mean, just oh, it's very sad, but I remember the PSAs about that as well now.
it's like
Like,
saving the ocean. Yeah.
wow. Which, by the way, I don't even. do plastic rings still exist? Like they actually?
Sometimes they do. Yeah, I think I just cut one maybe a couple of weeks ago. But...
Wow. I mean, that's a great question. So the answer is no, because I never got anything that has plastic rings. But it's good to hear it's still around. I mean, because so many things in the 90s and such kind of went away.
Like
And
I feel like I remember Smokey the Bear a whole bunch. I remember a lot of PSAs for some
yes,
reason.
yes. Like I remember like Arthur had a couple PSAs. Um, especially about bullying whenever he punched DW in the eye.
Dude, Arthur will forever. You know how often I get the library card song stuck in my head?
Having
Like,
fun isn't hard when you have a library card.
like that and the Dewey Decimal System. That whole episode is just slapping, dude. If you haven't gone to go see it, go see it on YouTube now.
Look, just start with season 1, man. Arthur was. I'm so
He's the goat.
sad to say this, but after the mid 2000s is when I stopped watching it. But I would love to go ahead and binge it.
I would definitely rewatch Arthur, dude.
Me too. It just ended like last year. They said it just ended.
I feel like it would be one of those kids shows that have like a touch of adult humor to go along with it. Like not even something subtle, super subtle.
Oh yeah.
But like,
it's incredible though, man. We that show in particular. And I said, hey, what a wonderful time today. Or like, would you learn to walk and play?
Yeah.
Like, man, I just remember the harmony.
Dude, that song didn't have to go as hard as it did, but it
every day when I'm walking down the street.
Frack, what were some of your after school shows? Right after school?
Oh man. Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I don't remember much of today, but I remember everything about my, that kind of stuff in my childhood. But man, so after school, I remember you had Arthur would come on at 3:30 my time every day, Monday through Friday. You had things like I wasn't even really much of a kid then, but I just remember Phineas and Ferb was at 3:00 every day.
That was a huge. What was that? What was that show on PBS that had Gilbert Gottfried? That's another voice actor who I grew up with too. That it was the PBS show that they had like Gilbert Gottfried as a bird, and they had like the 5 kids being like spies or something like that.
That was it the book, the library? There was one.
Let me try and look it up really quick. But go ahead, keep on going with yours, because I definitely remember Arthur being
there was one on PBS that had something to do with like a bunch of kids, and they were in a library or something. I'm about to look it up, but PBS, man. PBS for me was Zoom every day.
Zoom.
I mean, shout out to the cast members. We had a couple of those on the original show.
Dude, stop! Really?
Yeah, we had Caroline and Eric.
Yo.
Oh man, you should watch that episode.
Caroline was one of my favorites, dude. If
you guys, my girl crush.
I will have to go back and watch that episode.
Yeah.
Zoom was one of my favorites. Zoe was always my favorite. Cast member. She was the bomb.com.
It was Zoe, Kaylee, Caroline, Eric, Pablo, and
wasn't Kyoko one of them?
Yes, that's her. Yes. So all of them were my favorites, and it was such a great show because I learned, and that's why I got to tell them, like, I learned so much from you. As a child, I learned how to make things float in the air, or all these different projects they would do.
For those of you who don't know what Zoom is, Zoom was like a DIY show basically for kids. It was kind of like all that, but instead of skits, it gave you like things to do, like crafts to do or things to bake, science things, games with your friends. Like, it was such a cool idea for a show, and it had ordinary kids And they even had their own language of ubby dubby.
Ubby dubby wubby dubby.
Did you learn it, Frack? Did you learn ubby dubby?
It's kind of like a lost language for me now, but yeah, I did. I absolutely did. It was definitely something I would speak very often as a child, and people would be like, "Okay, you're weird."
Listen, that is something that you put on your resume now, Frack. Okay, you say that you know English, you know Spanish, and you know ubby dubby.
How many languages? 3. Name them. Ubby dubby. Excuse me. Ubby dubby. I mean, it is an official language. So.
I think you had to replace each vowel with ubby or something like that.
Yes.
Whenever they talked about something, it was.
And somehow they all were talking and communicating and knew exactly what they were saying, and I'm like, you know, I mean, you speak to me now and be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't speak that language anymore. I gotta brush up on that, man. You know, one of the best things about Zoom was definitely the DIY stuff, but also, you know, people like us submitted it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, that's right.
That's what they said, though. But but they did say, you know, send it to Zoom 02134 Boston, Mass.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but actually, you know, what's cool is we had Caroline and Eric, but I kind of got to know Kaylee a little bit. I got in contact with her because she had messaged me after the show and said she saw it and she loved the episode. And she's a Broadway actress now.
Really?
Yeah, she does, I think, real estate and Broadway.
That makes me super happy.
She was in Mrs. Doubtfire. Like the Broadway show?
Oh, the Broadway, really?
Yeah.
That's actually really neat. I like that.
She was in a show called A Bronx Tale, which is also 90s as well.
Yeah, I heard that show.
She was in the Broadway version of it, and we had seen that show, I think, like a few days after she left the show. So that's kind of sad, but
dude, that is just wild. I'm just glad that they're doing stuff. Like, that is so cool, man. And I can't believe that you actually did a show with them. That I'm gonna have to post that, dude. That is so funny.
What's incredible is, you know, they're all doing amazing things. You know, I remember, like, Caroline is a nurse. You know, she's I think she's a RN, or I don't know, CN, AN, whatever it is. She's doing incredible work.
I wonder if anybody ever recognizes her, like, hey, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen her and Eric, their facial features have not changed.
They look exactly the same.
They look exactly the same. I mean, I think Eric does a good job when he has a beard. He can maybe hide it, but, you know, like, I would suggest he never shave because they still look the same. But yeah, so I want to go ahead and kind of end here, but I want to talk about one last thing, and that is, can you tell me? Can you
please?
So we have a nostalgia grab bag from 30 AM.
Hey, my friend.
I have to hide this, but I also need you to go back and talk about this sign right here, because I remember it, but what does it mean to you?
What does it mean? I don't think it has any meaning, does it? Did it have any meaning? I don't think it
always drew it.
I think it just came about. You know, I remember these really vivid DIY like books that you would get sometimes, and they would teach you how to do things in like 3D, how you would do like a cube in 3D.
Yep.
And I think that's where it's gotta come from, because after those books, I saw that S everywhere on binders, on anything that you could put it on.
I mean,
that S was there, dude.
I thought it had something to do with Superman, and they were like, no, it's just something we always drew it. And then it just hit me remembering, oh my goodness, I never, ever, like, it was like a flashback. when I was in school on the desk drawing it.
I don't think I ever questioned where it came from. I think it just started happening, and because it was easy to draw. You did the 3 lines and then you connected them.
Man,
It was
that's.
perfect.
I was hoping you might have had an explanation, but yeah, apparently that's what everybody's explanation is. We just drew it. It was just something we drew, Caleb.
I really, yeah. Now I'm gonna have to kind of look back into it.
It's everywhere.
I think I have mine over here too. Hold on. Oh yeah, I got mine as well. Hey.
Whoa, the same exact
Friends
thing.
are very 30 AF.
Shout out to our friends.
I'm so glad that you got to talk to them, dude. They're wonderful peeps. I love me some Peter and Chloe.
It was a fantastic episode. There'll definitely be a part 2 coming in the future, and I do want to say we want to give a huge shout out to Monday Cinema Club. Guys, if you don't watch it, it's incredible. I would honestly tell everybody to watch it, not because Dante Brasco is in it, but our friend Denise right here. And it's incredible. I mean,
you're gonna come on the show this upcoming week too. We're doing the Karate Kid. We just talk about old school movies, and if you like old school movies, come in and chat, man. And our friend Frack is gonna come in for the Karate Kid, some wax on, some wax off.
Wax on, wax off.
It's gonna be amazing. I can't wait.
It only took me about 25 years to learn it, wax on. But yeah, it's incredible, guys. Every week they do a different movie and they kind of discuss it. And it's really deep, man, especially when you guys get the other people like myself who can come on and talk. And especially for Karate Kid. Karate Kid was all me.
We're gonna go in deep. We're gonna go in deep with Karate Kid for sure. I think all of us being very nostalgic as it is, I think this one's gonna be a good one for the summer.
I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a blast, guys. And when do you guys go on? When do you guys go live?
So go ahead and find us over at Monday Cinema Club on Instagram. We go live at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. Come and hang out with us on Instagram, guys. Anyone can join us. If you've seen the movie, we're happy to have you on, and you guys can talk to not only me, but our friend Alice Rahematullah and our friend Dante Basco. So come in and join us, man. And Frack, thank you so much for having me, dude. This was a blast.
Absolutely. And I wanted you to say Alice's name because I would have just butchered that. So.
It's a tough one. She's Uyghur, but she is a gem, and you guys will love her as well. So.
All right, guys, y'all heard it. This is our friend Denise. She's back for episode 2, coming back for episode 3. This is the Frack and Friend Show. We love you guys. Thank you for your support. Take it easy. See you guys next week. Backstreet's back. All right.